All right, everybody. So, welcome again back as we count down my favorite Christmas movies and specials towards the Christmas holidays. It is now December 8th, so we're getting even closer. And let's have a look at what the Advent calendar has in store for us today. Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. Three hoes, what can I say? Rowan Atkinson is fairly unusual as a comedian because generally speaking, you'll find that comedians fit into one of two categories. They're the sharp-tongued, sharp-witted, verbal comics, and their comedy is based on verbal humor, words they use. You also get very, very gifted, what one friend of mine calls body comics, but an example of this would be Charlie Chaplin. They work on pantomime, they work on gesture, they work on facial expression, and the best of them don't even bother with words. Rowan Atkinson, who plays both Mr. Bean and Blackadder, is actually a master of both, and that's really, really, I find, unusual in a comedian. Usually, a comedian either tends to favor the verbal side of comedy or tends to favor the more pantomimed mime side of comedy, but it's rare you find a comedian who's gifted at both. Rowan Atkinson is absolutely gifted as both, and wonderful here in Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. Um, it's very interesting because a couple of in this series already we've talked about a couple of specials and that give you and movies that give you Christmas from a child's perspective. So here you get Christmas from Mr. Bean's perspective, and Mr. Bean is pretty much a child man. He's sort of like a man who's in his 30s who's never grown up beyond childhood, and that is really made very, very explicit in his scene with his girlfriend. And again, for those of you who haven't seen it, I don't want to give you spoilers. So just absolutely delightful physical comedy going on here. It's a ho 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 and not a whoa ho ho, really, because again, like the animated version of A Christmas Carol, it's not one of those cases where less is more, less is less. It's half an hour long, so it plays again as a series of sketches, doesn't really develop a storyline. So that's why I wouldn't consider it to be one of those things where it's not Christmas without it, but it's still great, great fun to watch. Rowan Atkinson again, sheer delight to watch as Mr. Bean. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed today's mini review. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.